So 3A was short. 3B is also going to be short. I figured since your lecture 2 was so long, I'd split it up a little bit. So 3B is going to talk about the mantle mostly. So we talked about the 3 layers. Convection, I would suggest going to this link and actually watching the video. So go ahead and go to YouTube and search convection, and it will show you basically what happens. So in a convection, you're going to see a rotation. So as with convection, you see heat transfer from your warmer. As something warms up, it'll start to move away from that heating substance, the substance that is heating the particles, and it will start to move away. And as it gets cooler, it will fall back towards that heating substance. So that's how heat in a house works. That's how your boiling water works, but we'll explain it a little bit more. So that, based on what we see in our daily lives, we can guess, or we can assume, and we can see that the mantle actually behaves in this way. But going on that way, we're talking about 3 different types of heat radiation, or heat transfer. So radiation is one way. So energy will transfer through empty space with no direct contact with the heat source. That is not what the mantle does. So the sunlight warming the Earth's surface would be the example of that. Conduction, this is when a heat transfer has direct contact. So if you're putting a metal stove to boil water, or to put it in that hot stove, that is conduction. Now convection is what we're talking about with the mantle. So convection, transfer of heat by the movement of heating a fluid. So liquid or gas. Fluid is liquid and gas. Heat transfers by convection causing differences in temp and density with a fluid. So when you heat the water on a stove, the bottom gets hot, it expands, and that's why you see the bubbles start to move outwards. If you do not see these bubbles, if you don't see the movement of the water, that's what causes the convection. So that's what is caused by the convection, the movement of the water. So convection currents flow from the mantle, the heat source of the Earth's core. These currents have been acting as a conveyor belt moving the lithosphere, which includes the crust, for about 4 billion years. So you see the convection. So we have the outer core, which is heating the mantle. And so gradually, you'll see these convection currents that cause the crust and upper mantle to move, because you have your hotter mantle in the lower part and then your cooler mantle as it comes back down to the core. And this is what happens inside of your house when you heat it for winter. So when you're heating the air, the hot air does not rise, but the warmer particles rise, cooler particles drop. So this is where we get our idea for plate tectonics. So you have your trench, was when your old crust starts to move back into the mantle, and your ridge creates your new crust. I would suggest drawing this in your notes. But that is all for this. You'll have a quiz. You need to get 7 out of 10 to move on. You'll do your web quest, and then you'll move on to lecture 4A.